Hi, this is Professor Cataldo, and I'm going to walk you through a nice little explanation of gross and net sales and gross and net purchases. If you learn both of these together, it's a little bit easier as you're proceeding through introductory financial accounting. If there are any topics in accounting or business you're having difficult with, leave a comment. I'll try to develop a YouTube video, try to help you. Gross and net are terms that are used in accounting in a variety of contexts. In financial accounting, if you understand how gross sales or gross revenues are used to arrive at net sales or net revenues, it's a very simple matter to also understand how gross purchases are used to arrive at net purchases. Gross sales are those sales generated prior to being reduced for. Sales returns. An item is returned by the customer. Sales allowances. An item is shipped to a customer, it has a bit of damage. The customer calls you, they mention the damage, and you decide to provide them with a price reduction or an allowance. Sales discounts. Those are usually in the store. They're discounting the price to move a slow-moving inventory item. So sales returns track items that have been sold and returned. It is a contra revenue account. All of them are. And by using a separate contra account to keep track of sales returns, management can identify, for example, a problem supplier, or items that might best be considered for elimination if the sales returns are excessive. Sales allowances track items that are required by they require some form of price reduction to retain the sale. So an item is received, it's damaged during shipping, you decide to knock $50 off the sale price if the customer does not return it to you. By using a separate contra account to keep track of the sales allowances, management can identify inventory classes that might have been damaged perhaps by a delivery service or provider, and they can reduce future sales allowances perhaps by using a different supplier or identifying some other problem that needs to be resolved to reduce future sales allowances. Sales discounts track items that must be reduced in price, perhaps to accelerate the profitable disposal of slow-moving inventory. So retailers might actually put in orders well before December, 6 months or a year before. They have slow-moving inventory. They need to get it off the shelves in anticipation of new inventory arriving and limited shelf space. So by using a separate contra account to keep track of sales discounts, management can identify inventory items that do not turn over, inventory turnover, at the desired rate, and they might even consider eliminating or replacing them with a more favorable or profitable inventory item. Once all contra revenue items have been recorded, gross sales can be adjusted to net sales. So I have gross sales, that's a credit or revenue item. I have sales returns, sales allowances, sales discounts. These are all contra revenue items. And when I subtract the contra revenues, sales returns, allowances, and discounts from gross sales, I arrive at net sales. The process is very similar when adjusting gross purchases to net purchases. Here, the contra items are contra expenses instead of contra revenues, and we have to add an item. Some textbooks refer to it as freight in, some refer to it as transportation in. It is part of the inventory cost. It is easiest to present the adjustment from gross sales to net sales and gross purchases to net purchases side by side. So I'm going to do that. So below, I've presented them side by side, and I want you to see how they're similar. Gross sales, revenue. Gross purchases, expense. Sales returns, contra revenue. Purchase returns, contra expense. Sales allowances, contra revenue. Purchase allowances, contra expense. Sales discounts, contra revenue. Purchase discounts, contra expense. Now in the case of purchases, we have to add an item. Notice this is a subtraction, 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 addition. That's freight in or transportation in. And we arrive at net sales and net purchases. A nice, easy way to learn both at the same time. Once you know one of these, with a minor adjustment, you know the other. Thank you.